Good afternoon. Welcome to the August 13th, 2018 Park and Rec Commission meeting. We've got quite a full house here, lots of guests and visitors. Welcome to everybody. And we've got a pretty full agenda, so we'll get into it here. So first, we have to amend and approve the agenda for today. Everybody's had a chance to look over it. Is there any additions or subtractions?
Move adoption.
Move approve.
Okay, so we've had a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Next is the minutes from the last meeting, which goes back to June 11th. We did not have a July meeting. So
I move we approve them.
Second.
okay, there's been a motion to approve the July 11th meetings. Any discussion at all? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, on to next order of business, the department activity report. Everybody also had that. That's June and July activity included in that report. And been a lot of activity. Any comments from anyone? Otherwise, we'll order that filed. And next is the city council recap. Director Schmitz.
Thank you, Vice Chair Vorwerk and commissioners. We've had a few city council meetings, actually 4. There's 2 per month since our last commission meeting. So back to June 19th, there was quite a bit of action where the city council authorized the renew sales tax projects request for proposals for the RFPs to go out for construction manager services at the recreation center, which includes the indoor water park, the gymnastics center, the wellness center, and the indoor playground. They also approved an RFP for architectural and engineering services at Johnson Park Grandstand, Herman Heights parking lots and road project, and then the multi-purpose dome. So all those were approved by the city council to move forward with requests for design services. Also, they authorized soil borings at the recreation center. We've just completed soil borings around the recreation center in anticipation of those construction projects. They also authorized staff to pursue more dome location options and to study those various other dome location options in addition to School District 88's new high school field. They authorized the early retirement of some of our last sales tax bonds for the first wave of projects that began in the year 2000. And then they authorized the sale for the first sales tax bonds here in 2018 for the new projects. We have $14.8 million in authorization, and we just sold $7,055,000 in sales tax bonds, and we received a very favorable interest rate on those. And so now the clock's ticking. We've got 18 months to spend $7 million on some of the new 7 projects. They received and reviewed the 2017 audit, and they set a budget work session for the 2019 budget. They accepted the donations you recommended they accept. And also, they authorized the Herman Fest requests that are coming up the Saturday after Labor Day here soon, similar to the past Herman Fests we've had at Herman Heights and Harmon Parks. Finally, they authorized a grant application of the state of Minnesota, Minnesota Department of Natural Resources for improvements at the Trap and Skeet Range. July 3rd had nothing from the City Council related to Park and Rec. July 17th, they had a second budget work session set for the 2019 budget, and then they approved the actual documents related to the bond sale for sales tax bonds of over $7 million. They declared a state of emergency for the June and July floods, so we may be eligible for FEMA reimbursement costs for some flood-related expenses affecting certainly in the park system, Minnicon Park, Riverside Park, and Adams Parks. They authorized a trail and utility agreement with MR Paving out near the Cashwise Underpass under Highway 14. And then there was an addendum to that meeting, which saw the city council authorize the new lease agreement with the New Ulm Steel Junior Hockey franchise and subsequent construction projects inside the Civic Center as related to the Steel hockey team. So that was a big meeting, July 17th. August 7th, the city council received notification from Moody's bond rating service that our sales tax bonds, the city has the highest possible rating, which is, or the third highest, which is a AA2. And then they consummated the bond sale. We had an estimated projection of sales tax bond rate being 3.6%, and we sold them at 3.12%. So that provides an approximate $250,000 of extra funding for the sales tax projects over the course of the bond extension. They also authorized adopted the Emerald Ash Borer Preparedness Plan for the community. Finally, they authorized the demolition of the storage building at the Art Wall Park. So, a lot of action the past 2 months at City Council related to Park and Rec. That's the report.
Thank you, Director Schmitz. Was there any questions or comments from anyone? Otherwise, we will accept that and move on to old business. Renew update. Again, Director Schmitz.
Thank you, Vice Chair Vorwick and Commissioners. There's going to be an oversight. We're planning a Renew Oversight, the second Renew Oversight Committee meeting this week, Thursday, late afternoon. I think it's 4 o'clock or 4:30 at the Civic Center. And we just opened the RFPs for Johnson Park Grandstand, and we had 3 quotes for design services on that, and we'll be reporting that to the Renew Oversight Committee on Thursday. And then just some basic updates on where we're at with planning and potential collaboration aspects related to the Renew projects. So I don't have anything else significant as far as updates go related to Renew that I haven't already mentioned in the above action.
All right, thank you, Director Schmitz. Anybody have any questions? Okay, we'll move on to new business then. Next up is donations.
Thank you, Vice Chair Vorwick and Commissioners. We have a number of cash donations offered to the city again this month from very generous donors. 3 of them for the Days of Play events, $500 cash from MR Paving and Excavating, $500 cash from OMG Midwest New Ulm Quartzsite Quarries, $100 cash from Sertoma Club of New Ulm, and then 2 donations to the German Park Paver Stone Walkway and improvements at German Park, both $100 cash. One from Nancy Ginkle honoring Stan and Oni Dietrich and family. The second one from Carissa Lindmeyer Bugler honoring Michael J. Reinhardt. The next cash donation was $10,000 from Ms. Barbara S. Haraldson to assist with the Kiesling House programming expenses. And then the final one is for the Herman 5K race, which is coming up. I think it's the first Saturday of Oktoberfest. Again, $150 cash from New Vera. So the grand total this month is $11,450 in cash donations offered to the city. I recommend you forward it on to the City Council for their acceptance.
Do we have a motion?
I make the motion.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and second that we send $11,450 worth of donations to the City Council for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next is Upper Cottonwood Street Park residence request. Director Schmitz.
Thank you, Vice Chair Vorwerk and Commissioners. We have before you information related to a potential future park that is denoted in our comprehensive plan. Dakota West subdivision and Upper Cottonwood Street is located up the former Poor Farm Road on the south side of town. I'm sure most of you know where that is. But the overview includes the fact that there are 7 undeveloped park areas in our community, in the city, or in the area. 5 of which are designated, which may warrant development and are owned by the city. There are at least 3 areas around the city that may be underserved by a neighborhood park and do not have designated parkland or city-owned land within them. This includes the Upper Cottonwood Street, Dakota West area. Some of these areas, so that's 7 plus 3, that's about 10 areas. Some of them have, they all have varying amounts of residences that are occupied. Some of them are built out more than other areas. Let's see here, what else is in the overview? In our comprehensive plan, in our master plan, we have an element, a recommendation that no resident should have to travel further than 4 blocks from their home to get to a park. We do have a park on Cottonwood Street called Adams Park down along the Cottonwood River. It's one of our urban wilderness area parks, certainly not in the classification of a typical neighborhood park like Lincoln or Washington. Okay, so some of the elements that would need to be considered by the City Council and others related to an Upper Cottonwood Street Park would include the fact that Cottonwood Street itself would need to be designed to go further south. Dakota West is all platted and either occupied or platted for homes. And the comprehensive plan shows more housing opportunity to the south of town. So the road would need to be designed, including probably removing the S-curve. That's just at the city limits line and beyond city limits. Also, the land of the south is not in the city limits, so it would need to be annexed. And then the city would need to obtain ownership of land for the road or roads and the park. The city would normally work with a developer who wants to plat the property for homes and other potential uses. And then, of course, once land is designated and owned by the city, there would be planning and design of the park, funding, and finally development of the park. So there's quite a number of steps that need to go through a process before an actual neighborhood park could be developed up there. The Parkland Dedication Account is a special account that is intended for this type of purpose. I've been here 13 years now. I started in '05, and we have not spent a penny out of the Parkland Dedication Account. We've not built a new park, so to speak. So there's over $180,000 in the Parkland Dedication Account available for land acquisition and park development. So if the Park Commission believes in this concept, I would recommend that they forward that to the City Council, and then ultimately the City Council would authorize staff to begin working on these various processes. You have in the packet there the list of the 9 park areas on page 11 of 34. And you have an overview map of the Upper Cottonwood Street area on page 12. And page 13 shows the Brown County parcel map of the actual parcels in that area, both in Dakota West subdivision and outside of city limits. So I know there's quite a number of people here from the neighborhood or enthusiasts interested in this. I would recommend that you ask them to come forward and share their thoughts with us.
Sure. Is there any comment from any commissioners at this point? Otherwise, looks like we have a few people that might want to comment. Could state your name and address, please?
Hi, my name is Holly Sieg. I live at 2307 Dakota Drive. We've been there for 4 years and have been patiently waiting for a park. I just did a bulleted list of reasons why we need a park. I think the biggest thing is to increase mental health and happiness, reduce stress, the need for healthy development of our children. It improves gross motor skills, fine motor skills, increases the ability to learn, reduces ADHD, and like I'm a special education teacher, so for me that's huge. It creates a sense of adventure, risk-taking. It encourages children to experience nature, which was why I think a lot of us moved out there. It would provide for a natural habitat for animals, improve drainage, improve water storm collection, which is huge in our neighborhood because we always have the water running down the streets, down the curbs, and I think the biggest thing is just creating a center for our community. We have a really active community, active neighborhood, and we're doing annual gatherings, annual events, and we do them in our driveways because that's the only place we have to go. In our neighborhood, we have about 39 kids and growing, so we still have empty lots, spaces available, and we have, I think there's 7 of us here that are really excited for the opportunity to have a park. Personally, in regards to like my experience with my kids, the kids play in the empty weeded lots, and to be honest, there's lots of animal feces and whatnot from all the wild animals in the area, and so that's really the only place they have to play collectively together, to play soccer and to play football and things like that. In Adams Park down the hill, like 3 weeks ago, my boys and I walked it, and my husband, and we got halfway through, which was great, and then halfway through Adams Park, the weeds were 3 feet tall, filled with cockaburs and thistles, and we had to carry our 7-year-old a quarter of a mile back to the car. So that park really isn't a feasible park either. But so yeah, our neighborhood would really like a park. We have tons of kids in the neighborhood just waiting and wanting a park. The other thing is I got bikes for our whole family to ride, and our hills are so steep. I literally realized that we can't even ride bikes up and down our steep hills, so I just circle the neighborhood and go back and forth on the street because there just isn't any place to ride safely. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Hi, Pat Gilgisberg. My wife Lynn and I just moved to Nome a year ago, and we don't have any kids there. We have grandchildren that come, and the first thing the grandson wants to do when he gets up there is go find a game. And right now there are still a few lots available that they can play ball and so forth, but that's not going to last forever because every year it seems like we get 3, 4, or 5 houses built up there. So I'd really, just for the grandchildren, all the children in the neighborhood, like to see one. And Adams Park was mentioned. Yeah, that's 3/4 mile away, and it's not a park to play in. It's just a nature park to walk in. And I think somebody said earlier that every development in New Ulm should have access within 4 blocks, and that'd be great. I mean, even if it's 6 blocks, I mean, it'd be great to have a park for kids and grandchildren up there. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tracy Winchell. I live at 1309 Settler Trail. The reason why we moved up to the area is because it's peaceful, it's quiet. We have the outdoor or the outskirts of town living, but yet all the in-town amenities. But really, since we started living there, there is no park. And I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old that love to be outside, but unfortunately, we can't really do much other than run to all the neighborhood houses. Like Holly said, the neighborhood is very close-knit. The kids like to run across and play with each other, but unfortunately, even with our steep hills, we're not able to put just a personal swing set because, like my house, it's a huge hill. So the swing set can't set where it's even or even safe for them to play on. So unfortunately, all they have is a trampoline, and that's all that they can do. So, other than Adams Park, the closest playground park that we have is behind the old Target building. And for them to get there, we have to go across Highway 15 and around. We have a golf cart that we can drive, but even just to get the kids to go for 5 minutes, it takes a lot of work to get down there. Cottonwood is often flooded, so then the closest park is even farther away. We have to go all the back roads, and we have to go around, and then the closest is about probably the Herman Park. So it's sad for our kids, but I think if we added a park up there, the housing development would boom even more. I mean, we love to be a quiet, close-knit neighborhood, and a lot of people don't know about us up there, so we often get forgotten. But I really think a lot of the lots around, anyone that comes up, they often say, I didn't know this was up here. And it's such a nice little quiet neighborhood, and why don't you guys have a park? And we often say, well, we're working on it. So I think our whole community together have been very active on trying to get a park. So we would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Nicole Johnson. We live at 2301 Benz Circle. Me and my husband just moved down there in April. I am a daycare provider in town. I also have a social work degree. I'm a licensed in social worker, or in social work. I have been doing daycare for 8 years. I have twin boys, 2 of them that are 9 and a 6-year-old boy. I provide daycare services for 4 families in town that have 7 kids, so I have a total of 10 kids that I currently serve. We used to live on North Washington. We're North Washington, kind of the middle of town by the clinic. Within 6 to 8 block radius, we could walk to 3 parks. Where we live now, I guess I took that for granted, thinking when we moved out there, doing daycare and acquired quiet development and a cul-de-sac. Now realizing how close the nearest park is that actually has a jungle gym is from my house, because we're the furthest cul-de-sac down on Benz Circle, up through Settlers Trail, up through Cottonwood. I just drove it on the way here, and it was 2.1 miles away. Half of the way down, you go down Cottonwood, which does not have sidewalks. Once you turn on to Highway 15 Broadway, half of the street all the way up to Burger King does not have sidewalks on a 40-mile-per-hour street. So it really isn't inducive for me to be able to walk with 10 kids in those conditions to get to the nearest park. And so that, on behalf of, our community and all that, just for my business, being an entrepreneur in town, and for daycare, it's very important, for all of the kids, not only in our neighborhood, but those types of, for me to be able to offer those types of services for my daycare. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I think there's a lot of support for a park up there. And it seems apparent that they need one. I don't know if I speak for everyone, but I didn't realize there was nearly 40 kids up in that neighborhood. That seems like quite a few. So anyway,
A comment I want to make about it, I realize there's no park in that general area, but as you heard Director Schmidt say, right now, we can't just go out and buy a piece of property, put a park there. The property would have to be annexed. It's still all farmland, agricultural around it. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. I mean, there's no developers come to the city yet. The property isn't even annexed in. The city's not going to put a park on somebody else, or not within the corporate city limits. Or are they talking about just a small community park? I mean, when you say park, it can be 50 acres or it can be a 2-acre park. Have anybody thought about that, or?
We have 3 empty lots right in a row, right in the middle of the neighborhood. That would be a really nice spot for a park.
Unfortunately, where the lots are, it's all drainage, so I don't see anyone really buying those lots to put houses there, because any house that goes there is probably gonna get water in the basement.
Are those lots now set up for residential?
Yes, the the parcels, the lots in Dakota West subdivision are all platted for residential homes, residential dwellings. Yes. The city council certainly would have the authorization to do something like that, but there's certainly utilities in there and assessments and so on. But the comprehensive plan does see more development beyond simply Dakota West subdivision. The city anticipates more development out there. And so if the park were just to the south, so to speak, of Dakota West, it would be in the middle of that eventual developed area. Because if you can imagine another Dakota West sized subdivision to the south of where you are now, that's what the city planners are anticipating. But, my recommendation is that you forward this on to the city council for them to direct staff to begin the process. If we don't begin now, it's just going to be for more time, to kind of design the road and talk to the landowners and figure out who's willing to sell and what's available to purchase and what's available to annex and how it fits into, Flandreau State Park. And there's a lot of variables, and I think now is the time to start planning for that, because it will take a number of years, I think, to get through this whole process.
In addition to, if the Park and Rec recommends to proceed with this process of investigating and looking into what needs to be done, I'm thinking also about the other areas of the community that are looking for parks. And Goosetown has been requesting for a number of years some park in that area. So I'm just going to throw this out. Would staff be able to come up with a proposal on some kind of sequencing of when we do what to present to Park and Rec to be able to review? I mean, a sequence of when it would make sense to do this park first, this park second, this park third. And, taking into consideration the reality of land acquisition, funds available, and all those kind of things. So I'll just throw that out to you, Director Schmitz.
Yes, I think a comprehensive analysis, a comprehensive study would certainly be in order.
I'm jumping ahead a little. We're going to get to that later, Tom, but is that kind of where the park unit master planning thing is coming in? That you've got in the budget?
Yes, we
That's
do
kinda
have some
okay.
master planning
Yep.
funding available.
Okay. All right, any more discussion on this, or does anybody have a motion?
I look at it as in up there, they don't have a safe way to get to a park, where a lot of other people in town may be farther away, but it's still a little bit safer for them. They have the sidewalks. They don't have to cross the highway. They don't have to go by the highway. I mean, it's only fair, I guess, when I look at it. They have no park. There is no way for them to get there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you go up to the microphone there?
As far as the land goes, yeah, there are the lots down there, but if you're looking for more land, and it seemed to me like you're looking to the south, there is a 5-acre parcel for sale there now. I think they call it the Golden property, if you know where that is.
I'm going to step in on that one. The city's not going to buy that piece of property for that amount of money, for a small park. When in the future, we know we're going to have growth development. It's a lot of money they're asking for that parcel.
Oh, okay, so then you heard a different figure than I heard. I just heard your figure last week on it, so, okay.
So I think we're getting into some of the details,
Yeah,
and we're kind of just looking for if we should even start the process here. And at this point, we have no motion or anything yet, so. Otherwise, is the,
Oh, I don't have any, I'll recommend the city council, or, excuse me, motion to recommend that the council direct staff to begin the process of establishing a neighborhood park in the upper Cottonwood Street, Dakota West area. It's just beginning the process.
okay. We have a motion and a second to recommend the city council direct staff to begin the process of establishing a neighborhood park in the upper Cottonwood Street, Dakota West area. Any more discussion on that? Otherwise, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, thank you, everybody who commented. And next up is Riverside Park, correct?
Yes, the building lease.
Yes, okay.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair Vorwerk, and Commissioners. You have before you an action form related to the Riverside Park building, the former Franklin Schoolhouse. The first part of the action form is to alert you and the City Council that the previous tenant has vacated. The CCMR, the Coalition for a Clean Minnesota River, has terminated their lease and vacated the end of July. And part of that arrangement, part of CCMR's involvement in the building included Ron Bolden's, with his leadership, an Environmental Learning Center, Natural History, Minnesota River History Learning Center. And so I would recommend that you forward on to the City Council them to receive and accept CCMR's termination of their lease, and additionally authorize a lease to be prepared and consummated with Ron Bolden for continued operation in the Riverside Park building for cultural and natural history displays, learning center, and programming. You have some information in the overview related to CCMR's involvement in the building and past and present uses of the building. The Park and Recreation Department has no concerns with creating a lease with Ron Baldwin to continue the Learning Center programming. No other potential tenants have come forth. The city has no planned immediate use for the building. The city can always take the building back if they want to and terminate a lease with Ron. And Ron is willing to obtain all the necessary permits and licensing to operate there. Let's see here. So, some of the budgetary issues would be similar to what Scott Sparlin and the CCMR was operating under, which would include no rent, no lease fee, but the tenant would pay utilities in the summer 6 months, and the city would pay utilities in the winter 6 months. Tenant is responsible for interior custodial services. And then you have in the packet, page 16 and 17, a programming and marketing brochure of Ron's. So those are my recommendations, that you accept CCMR's lease termination and authorize city staff and the city attorney to pursue a lease with Ron Bolden.
You want that in two motions, Tom? Accept the,
Sure, we could go with two motions.
yeah, I'll take care of the first one. Just recommend the city council receive and accept the Coalition of Clean Minnesota River notice of lease termination effective July 31st, 2018 for the use of the Riverside Park building.
Second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and second to accept the CCMR lease termination. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? All right, motion carries. And now on to the second part. Any discussion on that? Otherwise, is there anyone going to speak to this? Or, no? No.
If you want me to.
No.
If there's a motion or the commission has any questions.
Okay. Oh, right. So, yeah, we're looking for the second half of this here.
I'll move adoption.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion, and a second, I'm assuming with the wording that they have here, to recommend the city
Yes.
council authorize a lease to be consummated with Ron Baldwin of 522 North Franklin Street for the use of Riverside Park Building for cultural and natural historical displays, learning center, and programming. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next up is Chamber of Commerce 2020 Visioning.
Thank you, Vice Chair Vorwerk and Commissioners. We have before us Lee Weber, who's going to make a presentation related to the Riverfront Development Advocacy Group, which is one of the various groups that came out of the Chamber of Commerce 2020 visioning process a year and a half ago. And basically what we're talking about here is the Minnesota River Parkway, all the way from the community garden area, 20th South, former putting green, all the way towards the Boisman Bridge, the north end of town, and the bike trail along the Minnesota River at 23rd North. You have in the packet the conceptual master plan on pages 19, 20, and 21, which we have plans to further augment this preliminary conceptual plan. But I'd recommend you turn it over to Lee for his presentation.
All right. Thank you, Director Schmitz.
Thank you, Commissioners and citizens. My name is Lee Weber. I live at 10 South Washington in New Ulm. And as Tom said, he kind of covered the first minute or so of my presentation. This all started with the visioning meeting that was held about a year and a half ago by the Chamber of Commerce. And those of us who formed this group were seeing the Minnesota River as an asset that perhaps isn't fully developed or isn't as recognized as it should be. Now, many of the ideas from this original session that came out of this original session, it seems were already incorporated in the Minnesota River Regional Parkway Master Plan completed a few years ago. And that is on your website, that particular document. It was developed by, I think it was ISG was the firm that did that. And our initial focus then for this group was what can we accomplish with the existing properties, especially public properties, mostly in Riverside Park. And between things that were already on the park board's agenda and on the staff's agenda, quite a lot's been happening since then in terms of especially the old Franklin Schoolhouse. Most notably, the bathroom on the first floor has been expanded and is handicap accessible now. Unfortunately, the rest of the building isn't so accessible, and we'll get to that in a moment. Exterior water faucets put on both the north and south sides to help with watering, planting, and other uses there. Some changes in how the heating is dealt with. Of course, there were some four-legged and furry creatures who wanted to live there, and they've been persuaded not to at this point. Some tuck pointing both on the chimney and on the foundation, electrical upgrades. A window air conditioning unit's been put in the southern portion where the learning center is, and we can thank Tony Miller as well as Ron for these efforts to get that air conditioning in there, and it's made it a lot more comfortable this summer, I'm sure, Ron. The roof is in pretty good shape, and of course signage, has gone up around the area. Also, that planter, of course, came in. That was kind of kismet. There was a group that wanted to build that planter with apprentices, and that came in next to Gertie. And of course, Ron hosts a lot of children in the learning center on the south portion of that building. Other accomplishments more in the area, though, playground and replacement has happened, the boat ramp replacement, of course, various changes in how the area is kept up. The basketball court upgrade has been very popular. I know there's been a lot of people being pulled in there. And it's a good place for festivals. River Blast, of course, did pretty well there. Our Gemütlichkeit in Goosetown's coming up, and we're looking forward to that, as well as what we did on 4th of July. Oh, there's Gertie. Everybody loves Gertie. Another accomplishment was the wayfinding or pathfinding for bicyclists. George Glotzbach kind of took some lead on that effort to get sharrows and various direction finding painted on the street and get some signage in there as well. Things that are in progress, of course, looking at insulating the attic better and removing the false ceiling, see how that is going to work, and get some HVAC improvements. Some other improvements, we're looking at getting a fountain. We've been talking about that for over a year. I know staff's been working hard on that, and getting a drinking fountain and be the only one in that park right now. And then getting set up so you can start looking for funding from, get the master plan together and see what you can do with the existing master plan and move forward. Now, looking forward, I had mentioned that the Franklin Building has an accessible restroom on the first floor, but the rest of the building isn't so accessible, and it needs other things, you know, a facade restoration. It's a historic building, so all of this has to be done carefully. One way that you can get access that we've been talking about a lot is a project that I think would work for both the historical accuracy and keep the historic nature of the building. Mostly what they want to see are changes to a building that do not make permanent changes to the building, that you can't, they don't want, in terms of historic preservation, regulations do not want changes to the building that can't be undone. Well, you notice there's an exterior access. There's a door that goes out the riverside of the building that has nothing underneath it at the moment, but it's at the first floor level, and it would be good access for a deck. So here's Google Earth has shown us the top of the building, and here's what a deck might look. It's not to scale, it's just I put this together to give a sense of access. Looking at a ramp or some kind of decking that would lead from the front access to the building around the north side that would lead to the deck on the first floor level. So you could have true ADA handicap accessibility to the building at that point through that rear door. The deck could be large enough to have interpretive displays, to be useful for programming and for other purposes. And as you look at the back of the building, you'll probably want to do some excavating at that grade level where the lower level entrance is to clean that up, and that would give plenty of space for that entrance. Underneath that deck, it would be like a roof or a canopy over that area. Other possibilities, we've talked about access, trail access from Riverside Park up to Minnicon behind the existing land and industrial uses along that area. There are two landowners there that we'd need to deal with. But that is part of that comprehensive master plan for the Riverside area that already exists. And so if you look here, the orange dotted line would be the proposed trail that would hook up with the existing roadway at Minnicon and also go down in the south into Riverside Park. And of course, Minnicon offers things like the areas for primitive camping and the boat loading and other amenities. Another possibility would be to have some trail access from the community gardens, the old putting green, north to as far as the public land continues along the berm there. And then go farther north along the street until we get to the south end of Riverside Park where the trail would begin again. But it gives us a little more connection to tie the whole town together with non-motorized vehicles like bicycles or with pedestrians. Future needs, of course, the sidewalk needs to be along Front Street at some point. George Gospach has been talking with the Historical Society up in St. Paul, and they think it's okay to reproduce their sign that's right now at the rest stop on Highway 169 up by the Green Giant Hill by Le Sueur. It gives a great geological history of the river valley very succinctly, and it would be a great thing to have in our park just as an interpretive item. And then, of course, there's the otter, the riverboat monument that we've talked about for years. The current thinking is have it be some kind of gardening or feature in the landscape that would be about the size that would be the footprint of the otter, so that you'd know how big it was, probably delineated by things like planters or seating benches. And of course, the city is in possession of the boiler from the old otter, and that would be a wonderful feature to add authenticity and help with the interpretation of that effort. Other items, possibly a dock or some shore fishing or fish cleaning facilities. And of course, that Riverside Park has no shelters. It would be an opportunity to have a shelter with a restroom that would serve a larger number of people than the handicap accessible one in Franklin School would be able to do. So all of these things are things that we're looking forward to in the future. The effort is to get more activity and more use of the Riverside area of the town. A lot of other towns have done a very good job in developing their Riverside as an attraction, as something that you can present to the whole community and to the rest of the world as a reason to be here. And we think we've got a pretty good riverside, so. Insofar as so much of this has to do with parks lands, we wanted to talk with you at this point and talk about what comes up in the future and get on your radar screen, let you know what we're thinking of in terms of how we can move forward with this. So thank you for your time and your attention. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Thank you. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Weber? Otherwise, okay, so what are we proposing here?
There's not an action item related to this. It was just a presentation of RDAG's efforts to date to receive the presentation, and for future consideration in park development and budgets. So we may have another update, a year from now. And as funds are available, I would recommend that we proceed with various elements of developing the parkway.
And a comment, one of those items, a very nice job, Lee, by the way, with the presentation. At least now you're kind of familiar with their proposal and their mission statement. I myself attend those meetings, but when they do come back, when we do become eligible for legacy money or the arts and cultures, at least everybody's familiar, okay, this was presented to us, we know what they're talking about. We're going after legacy money, let's see where it goes.
All right, thank you. So do we have to do a motion to accept this, or we just move on? Okay.
No
All right.
motion.
Then-
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next is 2019 Park and Rec fees.
Thank you, Vice Chair Vorwerk and Commissioners. You have before you your first official look at the department's proposed fee schedule for 2019. And I might ask Assistant Director Corman if she's got any comments or input for the commission. But our philosophies have not changed. We want to make our fees affordable. We need to adjust for inflation. We want to try to recoup true costs where feasible. Consider partially subsidizing youth rather than adult activities. And that small, regular increases are normally favored over few large increases by users and user groups.
I have nothing to add. Other than that, I'm happy to answer questions or field questions from the group on the fees themselves. And if the commission would like to take a month to, get a better view, a review of the fees and take a look at some of the things that we've proposed and read some of the notes, we certainly welcome you to take that month, and you can table this item. But we do need to probably pass them in September so that we can get them to the city council in time for official adoption by the council.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any discussion, or are we thinking we should table these for a month?
I think we should table these for a month, because I could tell you one thing. I know some things because I went to my granddaughter's softball tournament, the Windmill Classic. Been in New Ulm forever. I had a grandmother and a grandfather come up to me and ask me why we don't play at Harmon or North Park.
I can answer that.
Well, I can too, because I asked the softball association, and you know what they told me? It's too expensive.
That they told me a different answer, actually. I spoke with somebody and they told, because I had the same question and the same concern, and I was told it was because there was a reduction in the number of teams that come. Apparently there's something with the sectioning and there's fewer teams. Some of the teams have gone to a different section that play in the Metro, and some of the teams here are deciding whether or not they want to stay in one section or versus moving to another. And then the other reason is that they used the fields that they used last year through the school district. And they told us they didn't have a need to use Harmon.
It's
I mean,
because
that's,
they don't have to pay for them parks.
I'm just saying that's what they told me. Because I had the same question, so that was my question I
And
asked.
baseball, same thing. A night game is $172. Umpires are $180. That's $352. And we have to pay sales tax for every bit of candy bar, whatever, okay? We can't, at Johnson Park for the New Ulm Brewers, and we lost the Kaiser off already because we can't afford to keep them. We can't even make $50 profit on one night game. Can't even do it no more. And it's becoming an issue. I can tell you this much, there's many kids that played at New Ulm High School, Cathedral, MVL. They're going to a different town to play baseball because we can't afford to keep them here. It's the way it is. And I think we gotta look into it.
Okay.
We're the only town that pays field rent for a baseball field in the area.
Yep. It's off the chart. Look,
Jordan does not, Hutch does not.
New Prague, brand new park, having a state tournament next weekend, doesn't pay field rent.
They said they pay their taxes for their field rent.
Yep. I mean, it's getting expensive. It is. I mean, I remember, and maybe you're right, some of the kids maybe don't, and I know there isn't as many kids, but years ago, North Park had girls softball for the tournament. Harmon, all three of them. Now we don't have any anymore. How much softball is rented out besides the school at Harmon Park?
I mean, that's, our main customers at Harmon Park is the Park and Rec, Co-Rec League and the schools.
And what school uses it besides Cathedral anymore?
That's
mean,
it. Public
that's it.
used it for a couple games in the beginning of the season, and then that was it.
And it's
'cause they have their
probably
own.
because they can't pay for it. They got a park up there, they might as well use it.
Well, they have their own softball field up there.
Well, yes, but they didn't use it because it wasn't ready at the beginning of the season. Then they did a couple games down here, but, I mean, the Girls Softball Association played up there, gave them a donation. And that was it.
Okay, so, were we thinking we should table these fees till next month then? Is that, we have to do a motion to do that?
Certainly, you could do a motion to that, yes.
I make a motion that we table these for a month.
Second,
All right. So we're gonna table fee discussion till next month. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next we're gonna go to the 2019 budget.
Thank you, Vice Chair Vorwerk and Commissioners. You have before you part of our annual process that commissioners and staff have an opportunity in the first half of the year to propose budget numbers for the following year. And so the department has submitted our requests to the Finance Department and City Administration, and they're reviewing them now. And I think we have a budget work session coming up soon with the City Council. Eventually, in September, the preliminary budget will need to be adopted by the City Council. And then in December, the final budget is adopted for next year of 2019. A reminder that our Park and Rec Fund, number 215, is a special revenue fund, meaning if it's not that we have budgeted money, we have to spend it or lose it, like some government entities have. If we don't spend money or can't complete a project in year one, we keep that money in our budget and we're allowed to possibly spend that in year two. So it's not like a use it or lose it philosophy. We do have some projected, we're projecting a flat increase in revenues due to some loss of some customers, including New Ulm High School and District 88 customers, girls fast pitch softball, and over 35 softball. The revenues at the Civic Center are budgeted at a decrease due to fee reductions to the New Ulm Steel Junior Hockey Team and loss of a couple of groups that were regularly renting a meeting room at the Civic Center. So that's in the overview. We normally spend in the ballpark of $500,000 a year on projects and repairs and replacements. You have before you in the budgetary section well over that amount requested by the department in the preliminary request, which includes a large replacement project at the Recreation Center of almost $1 million to replace the boiler system. And then nearly $100,000 at the Glockenspiel to finish replacing the last of the figurines and the control system. So those are two significant items. The other items are more of kind of annual regular costs in the tens and $20,000. So no action necessary. I just want you to receive and consider that we are not proposing adding a new splash pad or some new significant amenities because of the fact that we've got significant projects, repair and replacement projects, including the Recreation Center boiler and those components at the Glockenspiel. So if there's any questions, I'll try to answer those. Otherwise, we can move on.
All right, any questions from anyone? Okay, thank you, Director Schmitz. Next, we have the bus parking on 4th North Street, Shawnelow Park.
Yes, thank you, Chair Vorwerk and Commissioners. We, a long time ago, we don't know exactly when, but the parking along Shawnelow Park and the Glockenspiel, the south side of 4th North Street, was designated for bus parking only. There were many bus tours going on at that time. Since then, the bus tourism industry has declined, at least in New Ulm. And as you can see in the photographs, on any particular day of the week, you can see cars parking in the designated bus parking stalls. And so staff is recommending that you forward this on to the City Council for removal and elimination of the bus parking designation and signage. I have met with the Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce and the Chamber of Commerce staff, and they're in full agreement with this proposed action. They say there is no need for bus parking only in that location for that park.
Thank you, Director Schmitz. Any more discussion on this? I think it makes sense. If you can't beat them, join them, sort of. All right, do we have a motion?
Move adoption.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to recommend that the City Council authorize removal of the bus parking only designation and the signs at Shawnelow Park on the south side of 4th North Street between Minnesota and the alley. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Cathedral School shed request at Harmon Park.
Thank you, Vice Chair Vorwerk and Commissioners. You have before you an action form related to the fact that in 2015, the Girls Fast Pitch Softball Association received authorization to place a shed in the middle of Harmon Park to service their activities. The Girls Softball Association has since recently removed that shed, and one of the partners or cooperative users of that shed was Cathedral High School. So now Cathedral High School desires a shed because girls softball took their shed away. And so I'm recommending that you forward this on to the city council for their authorization for a small temporary portable shed to be established in Harmon Park, similar to the previous arrangement with the Girls Softball Association. And you can see on page 33, the location, kind of in the middle of the park. The department has had no problems with the girls softball shed in the past, and we do not anticipate any problems with Cathedral School shed in the future.
All right, thank you, Director Schmitz. Is there any more discussion on that? Otherwise, we'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the conditions in the overview, item D.
I second that.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to recommend the city council authorize Cathedral High School to place, utilize, and maintain a temporary portable storage shed at Harmon Park for use by their athletic and activities with conditions stipulated down in section D. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, thank you. And are we to the final spot here?
Yes.
Emerald Ash Borer Grant.
Thank you, Vice Chair Vorwick and Commissioners. You have before you a request to forward on to City Council, and request to apply for a grant application with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources for $30,000, which would be matched by an additional $6,000 city match, so that's a grand total of $36,000 for emerald ash borer prevention work. The City Council just recently adopted the emerald ash borer preparedness plan. This is an invasive beetle that's going to kill all of our ash trees in the not too distant future. And so we would use these grant funds to remove low-value ash trees and replant with other species. That would be the main component of action with the proposed grant. The Tree Advisory Commission is also supportive of this. If you have any questions, I'd like to try to answer those for you, but I do recommend we move forward with this.
Thank you, Director Schmitz. Any discussion on this? Otherwise, did you have some? No. Otherwise, we'd entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and second to recommend the city council authorize an emerald ash borer grant. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Director Schmitz. Next, we go on to report for Director Report. Sorry.
Thank you, Vice Chair Vorwick and Commissioners. Just a few items I'd like to mention before the end of our meeting. First of all is the programming season. Our new brochure is out. You have those available in hard copy at a number of locations, including the Recreation Center, along with on the internet and our website. I'd also like to thank the mayor and Eagle Scout candidate Dylan Cotton for the new Gaga Ball pit. That's our first Gaga Ball pit in the system at Harmon Park. There are a number of updates and information items in the agenda packet here related to projects. I'm not going to go through any more of those, but I would like to move down to announcements. And the biggest announcement we have is the fact that we're losing our recreation program supervisor. Joey Schugel has been with us for a few years now, a number of years, and has done an outstanding job. And he's being rewarded by that hard work as the City of St. Peter's Park and Recreation Director. So our neighbor to the east, St. Peter, has recruited and obtained Joey Schugel, who is going to begin with them late in August. Joey only has another week or so with us. Our loss, St. Peter's gain, and we will be having a little going away cake party for him next week, and we'll make sure that you're all invited. Other than that, registration open today at 10 a.m. for the new programs. I don't know if we have a report on how much money we've brought in already and credit card usage, but I'm sure it's a lot. And first come, first serve, get signed up for swim lessons or any of the various flag football activities and autumn sports and activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Schmitz. Okay, next is commissioner reports. Does anybody have anything for that? Okay, and brings us to the end here. Our next meeting will be September 10th here, and there being no more business, this meeting is adjourned.